Om Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayani Ambattvamanu Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. So in the 13th chapter, Arjuna starts with 6 questions. What is Kshetra, Kshetrajnam, Neyam, Jnanam, Purusha, Prakriti? So Bhagavan already answered Kshetram in detail, that this body, Idam Shariram Kaunteya, Kshetram iti abhidhiyate. Not only this body, but all bodies, whatever we are seeing, whether in space, underwater, everything, even in heaven, hell, everything is Kshetram. And who is Kshetrajnam? So Bhagavan says that I am in all fields. And he will talk in the next topic about this Kshetrajnam, which is the highest knowledge of the 13th chapter. After talking about that, Bhagavan suddenly switches to values. He says, I'm going to tell you Jnanam. So Jnanam we think is knowledge, but Bhagavan suddenly starts the topic of values. Amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, etc. Lack of, humility, having, not showing off, patience, forgiveness, straightforwardness, purity, and so on, devotion to the teacher. Why are these values emphasized so much? The masters tell us that if the scriptures are the fruit, what is the phalam? If the scriptures are the tree, what is the fruit of this knowledge? So if I am studying scriptures, then I should get some benefit. Otherwise, what is the point of logging in on Sunday morning? Just as I have planted a mango tree, after 5 or 10 years, I should get some sweet mangoes. Otherwise, there is no point. So the values will help me to reach the fruit of knowledge. And what is the fruit of knowledge? Peace of mind, calmness, purity, lack of raga, dvesha, likes and dislikes. So practice of these values is essential for studying the scriptures. Because we find people look at us and say, you know, this person has been studying scriptures for so many years, but he still gets angry. He still gets pride. He still gets arrogant. What is the use of studying? It is better to have values rather than studying the scriptures. So if I practice these values, patience, compassion, humility, that is good. But if I study the scriptures and don't have values, then the study of scriptures is a total waste. So the study will give me the knowledge that I can adapt to these scriptures better. I can understand them. I can apply them in my life. And that's what we find when we study the life of sadhus, of great saints. Saints do not just fall from heaven, paid se nahi tapakte. They have developed over the years by doing sadhana, by doing regular practice of study of scriptures and practicing these values. So this helps me to develop saintliness in my life. When we hear about great saints, Mirabai, Tukaram, Jesus, Buddha, we admire them. But how can I develop those values in my life so I also become saintly? So practice of these values will help me to develop saintliness. In my dealings with people, even in my dealings in my family, dealings between husband and wife, parents and children, parents and grandparents, at work, with my boss, with my co-workers. As I practice these values, ahimsa, shanti, forgiveness, patience, slowly my life will improve. And these values are very essential if my goal of life is moksha, which should be the goal of every human. We have talked about that. But that can only happen if I purify my mind. So these practice of these values will help us purify our mind. So that is what this teaching has taught us so far. That is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna has done. Last week, we only did one shloka, number 9, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, arjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, stairyam, atma, vinigraha. So these we covered in detail. If you wish to go back, you can go to firstpower.info. But briefly to summarize, amanitvam is lack of pride. Adambhitvam is lack of pretentiousness. Ahimsa is non-violence. Shanti is patience, forgiveness. Arjavam is straightforwardness. Acharya upasanam, service to the teacher. Shaucham is purity. Stairyam is steadfastness. And Atma Vinigraha is self-control. So we talked about these 9 values last time. So today we'll continue with, now we'll do today's shloka number 9. Indriyarthe, so Jagrati can chant after us. Indriyartheshu vairagyam.
Indriyartheshu vairagyam.
Anahankara evacha.
Anahankara evacha.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi.
Janma mrityu jara vyadhi.
Dukkha doshanudarshanam.
Dukkha doshanudarshanam.
Together. Indriyartheshu vairagyam. Anahankara evacha. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Dukkha doshanudarshanam. So indriyartheshu vairagyam. Indriyartha means, indriya is the sense organs. Artha means the sense objects. What are the indriyas want? What do the sense organs want? Sense objects. So vairagyam. So people say, please don't mention the word vairagyam because that is scary. That's why I don't like to come to Bhagavad Gita class, because right away you say vairagyam. And these Mahatmas who have written these scriptures, apna ghar to bigada, hamara bhi bigad rahe. They have already left their home and now they are telling us also to leave our home. No, Vairagyam, nobody is telling you to put on orange clothes or leave the home. But what is Vairagyam? We'll talk about it. And Anahankar, lack of ego. Ahankar is ego. An means lack of. Evacha also. So two more values, Indriyartheshu Vairagyam and Anahankar. And then Bhagavan gives a long value. Janma, Mrityu, birth, death. Jara is old age and sickness. So four things we all go through: birth, death, old age and sickness. And they are dukkha, right? And they are all sorrowful. We say, well, birth, yes, everything is sorrowful. So watch the dosha, what that all of these four give us sorrow. Anudarshanam. Anu means continuously watch. Darshanam means see, that all of these things give us sorrow. So let us talk about 5 sense objects. Indriyartheshu Vairagyam. So what are the 5 sense organs? Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha, and Shabda. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. So seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. So these are the 5 sense objects. And these we have to deal with all the time, constantly. So what do we mean by Vairagyam? Does that mean that I have to close my eyes, I can't do that. I have to deal with the world. Objects will keep on coming, some favorable, some unfavorable, some happy, some unhappy. So Vairagyam means mastery, that objects will keep on coming, but do I let objects dominate me, or I decide what objects I should indulge and what I should avoid? I should get to choose what makes, what objects I should deal with. Not that the objects keep coming and then my mind gets caught up in that. That is called bondage, that I have to have this object, I have to get it. If I don't get it, then I am unhappy. So what I become a slave to the object. It could be an object, it could be a position, it could even be a person, that without this person or I am incomplete. So having mastery over objects, and not everybody's attached to the same objects, right? Like suppose we go to the supermarket, there is a husband, wife, and a child, a boy. What happens? They go to this big store, maybe Macy's or something, and the boy quickly runs to the toy area. He wants to buy toys. The father goes to where he can buy suit, tie, golf clubs, and the wife goes to dresses or jewelry. So what is attractive for the child is not attractive for the father. What is attractive for the father is not attractive. So each one of us gets attached to certain objects that we give sukha buddhi, that this object is going to give me joy. And so once you give sukha buddhi, once you say that this object is going to give me joy, then you are bound. It's not only things that I like that I get bound, but also things I dislike. Like I run towards things I like, I run away from things I dislike. When I sit for meditation or puja, what happens? My mind runs towards things I like. And again, the things that I dislike become more strong in my mind. Oh, I hate this person, or I hate this object, or I hate this weather. So either strong likes or strong dislikes both equally bind us, equally get us caught, because one is giving me sukha and one is giving me dukkha. So as long as I have sukha and dukkha, I will be bound. So what I have to realize that these objects are all anitya. Whatever has come to me is temporary. It is a result of my past karmas, and what has come will go. Karmas will give me temporary result. Only thing permanent is God. So if you want to be attached to anything, be attached to God, be attached to spiritual books. But for spiritual books, Vairagyam is very easy. I don't need to study Bhagavad Gita. It's lying there once a week, class mein sun liya bahut hai. So there we very quickly get Vairagyam. Or from puja, today I'm so busy, I don't have time for puja, I'll just do 5 minutes. quickly aarti kar lungi. Today, I'm not going to spend half an hour one. So there we very quickly get vairagyam, but vairagyam should be for objects and we should hold on to God. But this will happen gradually. It's not going to happen overnight that suddenly, one fine day I become a total vairagi. So through practice of that and understanding that these objects are binding me, what do we mean by bondage? See, I hold on to a rod, right? And I say, aha, I'm holding on to the rod. The rod is under my control. Rod says, you are a fool. You are under my control because your one hand is now tied up. You can't use it. So same way, I think I own the house, but house says I own you. Because from now onward, all your effort is to pay the mortgage and then paint the house and change the roof and heating kharab ho gayi. So we think we own objects, but object own us. Like we have a car and somebody scratches it. Array. So who is bound? The car is not saying, love me, I am the one, or money, all these things are so strong that they bind us. And the biggest bondage is the body, that I am this body and I have to take care of the body morning to night. We are not saying you don't take care of the body, but the body should be like a car lease, like you have leased a car for 3 years or 5 years. What do you do after 3 or 5 years? You return the car to the Avis or Hertz or wherever you have leased it. While you are owning the car, you take care of the body outside, you take care of the inner, the machinery and the electrical wiring and everything so that the car runs. But at the end of the lease, you give it back and you don't have any ownership. So this body is a leased car that I have leased from Bhagwan. He has given it to me to use. It could be longer lease, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. But at the end of the lease period, I give it back to him and say, okay, I kept the car. I maintained it to the best of my value. Physically, I have to take care of my body, eat healthy, exercise, do all the things to keep it healthy. In what is the inner equipment? The mind and intellect. Keep that healthy. Have good thoughts in the mind, good emotions, so that my outer structure and my inner equipment should be taken care of. And at the end of it, I just give it back to Bhagwan and say, Meli Chadar. Remember, we have that bhajan that when I go back to God, I should say, you gave me this body, I took good care of it, and I am returning it to you better than. So that should be our purpose. That should be our goal, that this is the. And we see example of gymnasts, how well they take care of their body, how they eat healthy, they keep themselves exercise. So similarly, our body should be taken care of. But one should have a healthy detachment that I am not the body. The body should not become the source of joy or sorrow. Body is an equipment for me to reach moksha, just as a car is an equipment to go somewhere else. We see in the life of Sri Ramchandra ji, he developed intense vairagya when he was about 15, 16 years old. He said, this whole life, I don't want. It's not giving me joy. I don't want the kingdom. I don't want anything. I just want. And so his father, Dashrath Maharaj, was worried. What happened to him? Is he going into depression? Why is he not taking any interest in the kingdom? And then Vasishtha Muni comes and Dashrath Maharaj says, something wrong with my son. And Vasishtha Muni takes a look at him and says, nothing wrong with him. He has vairagya. He realizes that life is not going to give me sorrow, and that intense vairagya is necessary for knowledge. And that's when Vasishtha Muni gives him Yog Vasishtha, that highest teachings, which are actually thousands and thousands of verses, which Guruji has summarized. And same thing happened to Arjuna. He had so much vairagya. He said, whether you give me this kingdom or even Suranam api chadipatyam, even the kingdom of heaven, I don't want, because I don't think this will remove my sorrow. Bhagavan says, yeah, now you are ready. So at the end of the first chapter, when Bhagavan sees that he has vairagya, then only he gives this highest knowledge. So that's why they say, Indriyartheshu vairagyam. healthy detachment from the sense objects, realizing that that is not my ultimate goal. Then Bhagavan Sri Krishna tells us anahankar. Now, ahankar, already to some extent, Bhagavan has covered in the previous shloka when he talked about amanitvam, adambhitvam. Do not have, arrogance about yourself. Do not show off. And have humility, have ahimsa. So why is Bhagavan repeating it in this shloka? Because here ahankar, he's not talking about pride. Yeah, pride is one aspect of ahankar. When I have pride, then that pride has to be reduced and has to be accompanied by surrender. Like if I touch my parents' feet, then I should follow what they have told me. Or if I touch the Guru's feet as in humility, then that should be surrender. But ahankar, when it is used in the Vedic sense, ahankar is that I am this limited, finite doer. I am this finite being, and my name is Varsha, or my name is Jagrati, and I am a male, or I am a female, so that is ahankar. But scriptures tell us that we are all that divine entity, which we call as Brahman, Atman, Om, or consciousness. And this body is my instrument, but that is not my true nature. And also, anahankar means lack of doership, that I have done so much. You don't know how much I have done. So the moment the doership comes, then ahankar comes. So they say, well, should we not be proud of our accomplishments? Yes, but remember, anything that you have accomplished, 98% has come from others. Only 2% has come from you. We owe so much to our parents, to our teachers in school, in college, our co-workers, our employees. Any success I have, if I make a successful business, 98% of the credit goes to everybody else. Only 2% comes to me. Even this talk that I am giving, all what I'm doing is reproducing all the Swami Chinmayananda and all the acharyas have given. I'm just parroting. So, but to think that I am doing it is the source of ego. So give credit to others. So many others have participated, starting from God to my parents, to my teachers, giving credit to all of them. The other way to reduce ahankar, one is by bhakti, by gratitude to Bhagwan, that it is because of God's grace that I have accomplished whatever I have accomplished. Other ways through jnana or through knowledge. How do I reduce doership through knowledge? By understanding I am not the ego. I am the supreme consciousness, and in my presence, this body, mind, intellect is working. So in the path of knowledge, the Upanishads teach us, and in meditation, we say, I am that consciousness, and I don't do anything, but my body, mind, intellect is working. And that is because of Prakriti, and so gratitude to Bhagwan. And then do whatever has to be done, but without sense of doership and without showing off. See, if I do something that to show off, then the ego automatically fattens. I do so much and nobody appreciates. I am here to do my duty, whether somebody appreciates or not, somebody praises or not, I do my best and then leave the results to God. So that is called anahankara evacha. Now Bhagavan brings up another very beautiful topic, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. So birth, death, old age and sickness, dukkha, all are dukkha. That's why there is dosha. So there is dukkha and there is continuously problems. Anudarshanam, constantly see. Anu means constantly seeing. You say janma, yeah, janma is dukkha, birth is dukkha, old age, death. You say birth, old age, death, and okay, that we understand. But even janma, So Vedantin tell us, when you are celebrating a new child's birth, and say, look at this, he's so cute, he's so... The Vedantin will say, ek aur bichara fas gaya. One more is now stuck in this world, and now he will be or she will be stuck for 80, 90 years. So he said, but if a child is born, don't go and tell the mother that. You say, oh, very nice, very cute. If you tell the mother your child is stuck, she will get angry. So you have to celebrate the birth, but inside, and more than that, I have to understand my birth, that I was born so many years ago and I'm stuck. And I don't know how many lifetimes more. So Janma should give you vairagya, that I do not want to be born again. And then when you celebrate a child's birthday, we are not saying don't celebrate a child's birthday, but do not just do it with play and toys and party and, these banners and all that. Before, in the morning, when the child wakes up, whether it's your child or grandchild, take him to the puja room and tell him sit down, or her, and do some arti. Today you wear nice clothes, take a bath, and you do the arti in the house, or you read some nice shlokas, or ask him to read a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, or whatever, read him some nice stories, and pray to Bhagwan that may this child accomplish your purpose. May he be your servant. May he work for you, and may he also reach moksha. So Janma can be celebrated in that way, that this individual should progress spiritually. So that is called Janma. But one should understand that Janma should develop vairagya, that I do not want to go through this. Otherwise, the child comes out of the mother's womb, and then he gets stuck because his head is too big. And then, they're trying to take him out, and then he comes out crying. Mothers have all gone through. So I don't want to go through one more birth. That should be the purpose. And then how about Mrityu? Mrityu, I agree. Mrityu is sorrowful. And think about it. The jiva who is leaving, it's like when a child doesn't want to give up her favorite toy, teddy bear or something. It's huge. And you want to take her in the car or him in the car, and you're pulling it. And how the child is crying, I don't want to give up my favorite toy. Same with death. We don't want to give up. Why? Because I'm so attached. My children and my spouse and my gold and my money. And that's why death is sorrowful. But if the person has attained moksha, then his death is not sorrowful. That's why when Mahatmas leave the body, we celebrate. We call it Mahasamadhi. But you and I, when we leave the body, we have sorrow because we have not reached enlightenment. So birth and death, both are sorrowful if the person does not know what is the purpose of it. But both of them should create vairagya, should create detachment. And then how about jara, old age? Yeah, that we all know. What happens in old age, person say, don't call me young, don't call me old. I am young at heart. That is the favorite line. I am young at heart. I am not old. What does that mean? My heart has so many desires, but I cannot fulfill them. So that is called young at heart. I want to do all the things I used to do as a young man or a young woman, but I can't. Whatever joys I could, like I read somewhere, they say if you remove paratha and substitute it with the green vegetables, 90% of your life's joy will be gone, right? So what happens is that in old age, desires are there, but I cannot fulfill them because my eyes don't work, my brain doesn't work. This reminds me of a story. So there were these two older men, they were playing golf. And one's eyesight was a little poor. So these two old men were playing golf, and one hit the ball very hard, but his eyesight was very poor. So he tells the second man, did you see where the ball went? He said, I saw it very clearly. He said, where did it go? He said, I forgot. एक की eyesight नहीं है, दूसरे की memory. So So they're trying to play golf. So the point is that with old age, all these problems come, endless series of problems. He can't eat sugar. Why? He has diabetes. Cannot eat salt. Why? Because he has high blood pressure, congestive heart failure. Cannot drink water. Why? Because he has to get up in the night 3 times. He can't eat anything. He can't drink anything. He has backache. Not that I'm trying to make fun of old age, but the thing is we all go through that. And then we have dependence on others. So the point is that, first of all, I should develop compassion, that if somebody is old and going through these physical problems or mental problems, I should develop compassion. If that person needs to be driven around, I drive him. If the person needs help with medicine, needs help with, walker, clean up, whatever I can do to make an older person's life comfortable, I should do. But I should understand that when I also go through that it is part of life, and go through it without complaint. And then vyadhi, illness, even a common flu, if we get, or a little cold or cough, and life becomes so difficult. I can't eat anything. I can't walk. I can't go to work. But imagine if we have major illness, you end up in the hospital, and then you're taking hundreds of medicines, and then your whole house is a medicine cabinet when you come back. And so the point is that all of these things should develop mumukshutva, that Bhagwan, in this one life, whatever I have undergone is because of my karmas, but I do not want another life. And while I am in this life, I understand that even a human being who is the highest out of the creation has thousands of ailments, physically, mentally. So not again to be depressed, but to realize that the reality of life is that this is going to happen to everybody. Not only old people, even teenagers. If you ask them, do you have any problem? He says, yeah, I have so many problems. I have peer pressure. I have SAT coming up. I don't know which college I will go to, which school. So problems are there with everybody, but I should understand that deal with the problems cheerfully without complaint. And secondly, develop detachment, mumukshutvam. Siddhartha's story, everybody knows, he went for a trip with his charioteer. He saw a man getting old, a man dying. And what was the third one? Yeah, man having sorrow, old age, death. He said, I don't want it. I don't want one more. But you and I, how many we have gone through? So many people dying, and so many people having sorrows, and so many people getting old. But nothing happens. We are still as we were before. He only needed one time, to develop mumukshutvam. But you and I keep going through not only this time, but lifetime after lifetimes. We don't change. So that's what they say. Develop Vairagya. And the best book to develop Vairagya is Bhaj Govindam. How many of you have read Bhaj Govindam? Masterful book. If you need to develop Vairagya, read it one time. If you don't have it, we'll get it for you from the office. Most beautiful book to develop Vairagya. So that I should develop, and I should develop compassion and mumukshutvam. So that's what they say, that Indriyartheshu Vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam. Realize that life will bring sorrows, and how do I intelligently deal with them? Very, very powerful shloka. There is very intense ideas, very powerful in this particular shloka. Next one is a continuation of that, shloka number 10. Right. I think Neeru mentioned another point, that objects by themselves don't bind you. It's that the dollar bill doesn't say, come and hold me. I have developed longing. We give importance to them. We give sukha buddhi to them. We give ashraya, that they will give me joy. So objects are inert. It is my mind which gets attached. So that is a very good point. Thank you. We'll do next shloka. Asaktiranabhishwangaha
Asatiranaviswamgaha
putradara grihadishu
putradara gruhadishu
nityancha samachittatvam
nityancha samachittatvam
ishtanishtopapatishu.
Ishtanishtopapatishu.
Together. Asaktiranabhishwangaha putradara grihadishu nityancha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu. Okay, asakti means detachment. Now in Sanskrit, if you change asakti to asakti, it changes the meaning. Asakti means detachment. Asakti means extreme attachment. So that's why you have to be very careful when you read. If you put one extra line, changes the meaning. Asakti, so detachment. Anabhishwangaha means non-identification, means we identify so much with putra, dara, griha, adi. Putra means child, dara means spouse, and griha, adi means all my possessions. So we have so much identification with our children, spouse, and with our possessions. So he says, develop detachment and develop non-identification. And nityam cha samachittatvam, at all times samachittam. Samachittam means equanimity in ishta anishta. What I like, what I don't like, what I want, what I don't want. Upapattishu, when I get what I like or what I don't like, what I want or when I don't want, the ability to remain the same. Same and sama, sound so close. So that is a translation of sama. It is the same. So as we said, detachment we talked quite in the previous shloka. But why do we get attached? Because we have desire. Not only we get attached to our body, a bigger attachment is to our opinions. My idea, I am right and everybody else is wrong. In fact, I heard somewhere that everybody in the universe, all humans think the world revolves around them. Is that true or not? Right? We all think the world revolves around me. So attachment to our opinions is more difficult. I'm a Republican, and if anybody is a Democrat, we are ready to, kill them or shoot them. And same way, other way around. Vaccines, anything you look at, people are getting so strongly tied up to their opinions, their ideas. So in the second chapter, Bhagwan Shri Krishna very beautifully says, Dhyayato Vishayan Punsa Sangas Teshu Pajayate Sanga Jayate Raga Kamat Krodho Vijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammoha Smriti Vibramcha Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. So when I think of objects, then I get a desire. Then with desire, when I don't get, anger. And when I get, then greed, jealousy. And then with anger, loss of discrimination, loss of memory, and then the person perishes. So just thinking of objects create a cascade of man's downfall. That's what the second chapter, Bhagwan mentions that in 2 shlokas, because I have ashraya, as that this object will give me comfort, will give me shobhana buddhi, will give me joy. And what happens is that in the mind, chitta, there is the memory, impression is made. Suppose I tell you camel, immediately what happens? You think of camel, right? I tell you mosquito, you think of mosquito, elephant. So there is in this memory bank, there is this mold, and the moment you think of an object, that particular shape, the mind takes. It's called vritti. But repeated thinking of something as like and dislike makes that mold strong, where I become so rigid. I must have it. If I don't have it, I will destroy the person he's. And why that is so? Anything that is done with selfishness, self-will, that I must have it, that creates this attachment. If there is lack of self-will, I'm doing unselfish, then this grooves don't come, as Satish Bhai often says. These grooves of selfishness and all that comes because of repeated thinking. So by repeated thinking of unselfish things, by repeated thinking of Bhagwan, by the right knowledge, slowly these grooves change and you create new grooves of spirituality. And as I said, it happens more about things we dislike, because that is the one we think of all the time. Things we like maybe once in a while, but what I dislike, oh, constantly I think about it. And then we identify with our child, our spouse, and our objects. So child does not mean that I don't love my child, but child becomes my status, as we said last time. If the child gets good into a good college, I am great. If child is performing on the stage, immediately I become tense. Why? Because my child, if he does well, then everybody will praise me. If he doesn't do well, they will criticize. So that is called identification. That child is me. And why? Because it is future joy. That when I get old, that hopefully the child will take care of me. Hopefully he won't, just leave me somewhere and say, okay, you do what you want. Actually, there's this Kapot story, in the Bhagavad, when this Avadut, this monk, was met by the king, and the king says, how is it that you are so calm? I get so stressed out. I'm a king and I have all these, and you have nothing. You are just wearing orange clothes, and sometimes you don't even get food. And when I look at you, there's a very beautiful example the king gives. It's like we are all living in this fire of objects, and you are sitting in the middle of the lake in this cool water. How are you able to do that? And why am I not able? I have everything. So he says, because I have 24 teachers. This Avadut says, he said 24. He said, yeah. So he gives example, like from the earth, I studied how to give unselfishly. Whatever she has, she gives us. From space, I learned how to accommodate everyone. From fire, I learned how to purify everything. So everything I have learned from nature, anybody I come across, I learn from. And he tells a very beautiful story, Avadut. He says there was this male and female pigeon, Kapot. And he says they loved each other very much and they lived together. And then the male pigeon would bring, straw, and then the female would make a beautiful nest. And so together they made a beautiful nest. They loved each other. And then they had, she laid eggs, and then these beautiful little children were born, and she was teaching them how to fly. And one day the mother and father went off looking for food. And it so happened the hunter came, and he threw a net and he captured the children, and the children died. And the mother came and she started crying, oh, my children are dead. And she also jumped in the net. I don't want to live, got caught. And then the father said, oh, my wife is gone, my children is gone. He also. So the point is that every child comes with their own prarabdha, with their own vasanas, their own karmas. I cannot live my child's life for them. I teach them right values. I do the best as long as they are in my house. And then ultimately you have to leave that. You cannot be attached to the child forever. Oh, my son is not, he used to call me every day. Now he doesn't call me once a week. Then he calls me once a month, or when he goes to college, or when he gets married, forget it. Now he listens more to his wife than listen to me. Yeah, all these problems we have. Why? Because of identification, that this child is me. Child is not you. You did your best when he or she was in the house. Now let them go, let them live their life. but we are attached because we think the child will give us future joy, will take care of me. And how about spouse? Present joy. Like husband and wife, they give joy to each other, they give comfort, they give security. But rather than being attached to the body of the spouse, see the Chetana in the spouse, see the life, the consciousness, see Bhagwan's presence in the spouse, in the children, in my parents, in everybody I deal with. Find the consciousness and fall in love with that. That is who my spouse is. That is who my child is. That is who my parents are. That's why Shankaracharya ji, in one place, he says it very strongly. He says a guru has as much love as 1,000 mothers. 1,000 mothers? Yes. Because what does guru want? Moksha. Guru doesn't say, let me get you a better house or a better spouse, or let me give you moksha. How many people will do that? Will a mother tell a child? So that's why the love of a guru is the one that takes us to God. So that's why the love of a guru, and sometimes even if the guru scolds, it is considered as a blessing. That's what Swami Chinmayananda used to do. When he found something was not okay, he would even scold, but not out of anger, but out of making us better. So that's why they say, if you want to be attached to God. And then house, Griha Adi, house and wealth, we have talked many times, because again, it gives us support. And that's why they say we don't only have 5 koshas, we have 5, the body, the mind, the pranas, intellect, and vasanas. But our 6th kosha is family. 7th kosha is dog. If somebody praises my dog, I get so happy. He's praising me. Arey, what do you do in that? It's a beautiful dog. Thank you. We get so happy. 9th kosha is house. 10th kosha is job. 11th kosha. We keep adding more and more things that give us joy. So they say, be the same in gain and loss. Whatever has come will go. Nityam cha samachit tattvam ishta anishta upapattishu. That what has come will be gone and remain the same, remain balanced, and don't get excessively attached. I'll end with a very beautiful story I heard recently. So there was this king who had a servant, like a man who used to take care of his horses. He would ride, wash the horses clean. So one day that guy who took care of the horses, his friend comes and tells him, can you ask the king if he has some place for me to stay? I don't have place, I don't have money, I don't have a job. So this fellow takes his friend to the king, and the king asks this young man, what can you do? He just shrugs his shoulders. Nothing much I can do. He says, but the king somehow liked him. He said, okay, there is a small house outside my palace. You can stay there and you can eat with the workers. So this young man started living in the house and eating with all the workers. And the people used to say, this fellow doesn't do anything. And why is the king still keeping him and feeding him? He is useless. We see him wandering around, घूमता रहता है, कुछ करता नहीं है. But everybody was afraid to say anything to the king. And so one day the king noticed this young man. He says, yeah, that's true. This guy doesn't do anything. Let me find some job for him. So he tells him, go to this other village, and the people there owe me a lot of taxes. They haven't paid taxes in 2-3 years. So here are the papers. Go and collect taxes from those people. That is your job. So this young man takes the papers, goes to the village, goes to each house and says, you owe this much or whatever, rupees or whatever he collects from. And every house he goes, he finds the people are so poor, in that village. Wow. And that is why they were not able to pay taxes. He feels so bad for them, but he has to collect, right? He is given a job by the king. And then he thinks this year the king doesn't need, because the crops have been good. Farmers have done well and his treasury is full. He used to roam around and be in the court. Said, king doesn't need. So he goes back and gives the money back to all the villagers. Not only that, he burns the papers. He says, you don't owe any more taxes to the king. And he comes back, and the king had said, not only you bring the taxes, you bring something else for me along with that when you are going. So he goes back to the king. So king says, where are the taxes? He says, sorry, I don't have them. Where are the papers? Sorry, I burnt them. He said, you burnt the papers? I sent you to collect taxes. What did you bring for me? Chalo, at least. He said, I brought yi. In Chinese, they say yi. Yi means goodwill, blessings I brought. King says, you are the most useless employee. Ek kaam diya, wo bhi nahi kiya achhi tarah. But king somehow liked him. He still didn't kick him out of that house. He said, you can stay there, but king said, I'm not going to give you any more work. You totally are a waste. So the man kept on living. He didn't go. After a few months, the neighboring king attacked this king. And there was a big war. And finally, this king was defeated and the neighboring king won. Now the king and his family were going to be killed, captured by this other king. So this young man comes. He says, sir, I know a way. So they go through the tunnel and they go back to that village where the king had forgiven all the debt the young man had. And all of them are so happy to see the king and his family. They are so grateful that when we were poor, you forgave our debts. And so they hide the king and his family in different homes. And when the enemy soldiers come, they say, we don't know where the king is. And they save the king and his family. And then after a while, the king is able to contact his generals, contact his army, and regain his army. And then he fights, defeats the other king, and regains his kingdom back. So that is what they are saying, that in life, we don't know when circumstances change, when problems come. But if you have accumulated enough blessings, enough good karmas, they will always come in hand. So in life, some things will be good, something will be bad, nitya, anitya, but the ability to remain equanimous, sama in all situations, because life will always not be a bed of roses. There will be problems, but my goal in life should be, I told this story to my granddaughters, and you know what answers? I said, what is the value you get from this? What is moral? So this 6-year-old granddaughter tells me, she says, money is not everything. These were her words. Money is not everything. I mean, I was amazed that she could say that. But the point is that that is what one should get from these stories, from these teachings, that what is more important in life is how much you can help others, how much you can do for others, not what I can get. So that is the essence of
Giving
today's.
more than what we take.
Yeah, that's what Gurudev says, giving more than what we take. So that is the essence of this teaching. So today we have studied Indriyartheshu Vairagyam, detachment from sense objects, Anahankara, lack of ego, and understand Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. They will happen to everybody, all of us. But if I have progressed in my spiritual journey, then even old age is welcome. Then any part, any time of life, I can be happy. And detachment from identification that this child or this spouse or these objects or this house, and remaining the same, balanced in gain and loss. Very, very powerful messages Bhagwan Shri Krishna has given us through today's 2 shlokas. And then next week, we will finish the values, 11 and 12. And then we will do the, what is that to be reached? What is the goal of life? What is Neyam? Bhagwan Shri Krishna will tell us, and how we should reach, and what is the benefit of this spiritual knowledge that we will be covering next week. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share this teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Anybody would like to add anything, any questions, any discussion?
You know, this one, you talked about anahankara, abandonment of the thought of I.
Yes.
Yeah, so that instead of I doership, if you inquire into that I, who is this I, you find that it is illusory. And once you know that, then that ahankar will go, that I am nobody.
Right. Yeah. So this I is illusory. It is not permanent. It is how does the ahankar develop? Yeah. It develops between the body and the life and the consciousness. It gets shape from the body, life from consciousness, and between body and consciousness develops this ahankar, this ego, which takes ownership of the body. So as Neeru said, this ahankar is an illusory manifestation. That's what Raman Maharishi tells. Thank you.
So if you inquire into it, then you find you are nobody.
Right. I am nobody.
I was always that, So.
Right. I was always that consciousness. This body I'm going to drop. So this ahankar disappears. Dhavate, that's what Raman Maharishi says. Dhavatya ahankar pishachesha. Once you inquire, you realize that ahankar has no reality.
Yeah.
That's true. Thank you. Lata, you would like to ask anything or add?
Yeah, you discussed 9 values in Shloka 8.
Yeah.
And in Shloka 9, three more values you added.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the third, the Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi is actually 4 states, and then Asakti, Indriyartheshu, Vairagyam, Anahankar. So 9 plus 3, 12. Yes.
And then next.
And then in number 10, you added 2 or 3?
3.
3.
Asakti, detachment, Anabhishwanga, and Nityam Samachitvam, Ishta, Anishta, Upapattishu. So 4. 4 or 3, however you want to call it. But totally there are 20 values. 20 values in this. Yes.
Okay.
In this chapter 13, totally.
Uh,
Depending on how you divide them.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Kusum, you would like to add anything? I know you read Bhagavad Gita quite a bit.
No, thank you. You did very well. But I love Gurudev's last sentence on page 75. That's the last sentence of the sloka number 9. He says, in this birth, death, old age, and sickness, all this metamorphosis, to constantly recognize pain is to feel an impatience with it. And this sense of revolt against pain is the fuel that drives a seeker faster to the perfection. So if we only see that pain, that yes, in all these things it is, then it's kind of a little push up to be more spiritually oriented, which I thought was a beautiful directions from Gurudev.
Yes. Thank you. Actually, Kusum, thank you for bringing up that point. I meant to emphasize that you will only change when you are unhappy with the situation. Otherwise, most people think, chal raha, life is not that bad. Yeah, there is some problems, but it's okay. That is called chalta hai. But then you develop little mumukshutvam. There is a manda. Manda means maybe not in this lifetime, but chalo, maybe next lifetime we'll see. Then there is madhyama, where I want mumukshutvam, but maybe after I retire. And the third one is tivra. He says, I want it right now. Enough. Bahut ho gaya. Enough. So I have to develop that feeling that it is enough now. I don't want any more. And when that happens, then this person doesn't want to wait. Then he says, wherever, again, like I have said many times, even if we don't reach the final destination, as long as we are progressing, Bhagwan is happy and he will continue our journey. He will make our journey better. But if I say I'm not interested, then he says, okay, karte raho. How many lifetimes you want? 5, 10, 20, 100? Go on and on. It's the choice is all given to us. Humans have total freedom. Bhagwan said, I don't do anything. I just make your life comfortable. If you want to be comfortable, if you want to be in misery, keep on living. That's your choice. So the choice has been given to us. Nothing is done. Bhagavan says, I don't do anything.
Animals are pre-programmed.
Yeah, animals are programmed. They don't have a choice. It's like fire. I've talked many times. The closer you go to fire, the warmer you become. So the closer you go to God, the
Always
happier
God
your
is.
life is. So the choice is totally up to us. He doesn't force anything. Up to animals, yeah, they don't have a choice. But humans, we have been given this birth, we have been given this book. So let us apply that. But thank you, Kusum, for the ideas. That unless I have unhappiness about what I am, I will never change. If things are fine, then why should I change? Why should I even bother to study scriptures? Sab theek chal raha hai, it's okay. Or other thing is people say, I don't know if there is any life after death. Has anybody ever come and told you? No. Then why do you believe all these Mahatmas? Like I said, apna ghar bigad gaya, hamara bhi ghar bigad rahe hain. There's a famous saying in Marathi. They don't have their family. They're trying to ruin our family. They are most loving, compassionate. They are speaking all these Mahatmas, all this teaching is for us to learn because they feel compassion. Gurudev didn't need to. His guru told him, you can stay in the Himalayas and meditate, and whoever wants to come will come and learn. But he 43 years, he traveled every day in a different part, in a
Slept
different
only 3
country.
hours.
Even until he couldn't move, he still kept on doing it out of compassion for us. All these centers that were set up, all these books, all these CDs, everything is, this one great Mahatma's gift to us. And all these Mahatmas, look at Ramakrishna Paramhans, Vivekananda, how much they have done, how much. So, it is, you have to be grateful to them.
Yes, Hari Om. No, this is very beautiful. The way I look at it is the amount of detachment will be related to the amount of spirituality that
Exactly.
you practice.
Right.
I think more spiritual you become, the detachment, I think, automatically
Natural.
comes. It's a natural process.
Hold
Yeah,
on to them.
things that we used to love
Mhm.
don't appeal anymore.
Right.
I have noticed that in my own life. And
Yes.
I think it's amazing. It truly is. And then the two most stubborn to me are the raga and dvesha.
Right.
I think we waste most of our life in those
You're
two.
so right.
And of course they derive from like ahankara and all the other tendencies, but those two are the most stubborn. You can think of it first thing in the morning that I'm not going to criticize anybody, I'm not going to have attachment for these things, but your mind will defeat you in that.
Mhm.
And it's just like you said, it's a work. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's just the practice, continue. I think we feel better about our lives now than 20 years ago, as far as, yeah. And hopefully in the next 10 years, we will feel even more joy, so.
Right. No, I think we
That's
are
all
all
I have.
on the right path. That's what Gurudev
Yes.
says. Spirituality is a
Yes.
one-way street. Once you are on it, yeah.
Yes,
Sad
and
is
it's a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing from our ancestors, our gurus, and of course the Almighty. So,
Right. Yeah, once you have sat in the train, destination has already been set for us. Bhagavan that's what I said in one of the other talks. I said, even the Ishwar Anugrahat Eva Pumsam Vedanta Vasana, even to have the desire to study this knowledge has to have Bhagavan's grace. So Bhagavan's grace is very much on us. The fact that we are studying together and we are learning this. So we have to always be grateful to God and Guru, because without them we would be nowhere. So thank you.
Absolutely, well said, yes.
Yeah, Gurudev says, hold on to the higher, the lower will fall. So if you hold on to the Lord, the lower attachments will slowly fall. So that will happen the more and more. Like we are studying in Ramayana, the power of the Lord's name is so important.
Talking of Ramayana, I think we should ask, every time we take an action, we should ask, what would Lord Rama do in this case?
Exactly.
True.
That will make it worthwhile.
Right. I was reading a summary of Adhyatma Ramayana. If you haven't done that, read it. And there so clearly it is said that it is the Supreme Lord himself, Brahman, who is walking on this earth. Nowhere in Valmiki Ramayana, he is said to be an ideal human being. And in Tulsi Ramayana, he is said to be God. But in Adhyatma Ramayana, it says Brahman alone is there. That alone is very, very powerful. And the teachings of that, it's so nice. It's so nice.
So
Because
who wrote that? This is the
Adhyatma
first time
Ramayana
I-
was written by Ved Vyas ji. And Valmiki ji wrote Ramayana, which showed him as a human
Correct.
being. And then Tulsi Ramayana is Tulsi Das ji. Adhyatma Ramayana, you should read the summary. Very nice. Very well done. It's beautiful. You can even just Google it, and then you will find some good site where they have described it. Very
Thank
nice.
you all. Definitely
Yeah.
look into that, definitely.
It is shorter but very powerful. It's written by Ved Vyas ji himself.
न तंत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम नेम विद्युत भाति कृतो यमग्निया तमेव भान्त्वनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति ओम शांति 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 आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूरत करुणा की आरती सद्गुरु की शरणों में उनके शांति समाए शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए पाप ताप संताप हरण की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया
Shuddha Niti.
नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की सिद्धि बाड़ी की तपो भूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे भक्त हृदय आनंद स्रोत की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की
बोलिए श्री कृष्ण कंचंद्र भगवान की जय। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Oh yeah, Pratasmarami, you want to hear right now?
Yeah, may I?
Yeah. Pratasmarami means in the morning I remember. Smarami, Riddhi Samsfurdatva Tattvam, that illumining principle which is in the mind, in the heart. Satchit Sukham, it is Sat Chit Anand. Satchit Sukham Paramahams Gatim. It is the goal of all great masters, and it is Turiyam, it is the fourth state. The fourth state, where it's beyond waking, dream, and deep sleep, it is the state of consciousness in which all the other three states arise. All three states arise in the Turiya, that is the fourth state. That is explained very well in Mandukya. So then it says, Prata Bhajami Manasa Vachasam Agamyam Vacho Vibhanti Yakhila Yadanugrehena Yaneti Neti Vachnehi Nigma Avochu Tam Deva Devam Ajam Achyutam Ahuravyayam. Right? So Prata Bhajami, what do I worship? Manasa Vachasam Agamyam, that which cannot be reached by speech or by mind. Speech cannot describe it, mind cannot reach it. But Vacho Vibhanti Nikhila Yad Anugrahena. It is the grace of that consciousness, Bhagwan, that I am able to speak. Even though my speech cannot describe, my mind cannot reach, but everything I speak is because of his grace. And how do the scriptures say? Nigama Avochu, how do they say? Na iti, na iti. Not this, not this, not this. Neti, neti. That is how, that whatever I see as this, I am not. This body, I am not. This mind, I am not. This intellect, I am not. These vasanas, I am not. This world, I am not. These five elements, I am not. So none of those I am. Na iti, na iti. Whatever I say this, I am not. That's what the Nigama. Nigama means the scriptures, the Vedas say it. And that I am not. So in meditation, you say, I am not this body, I am not the mind, I am not intellect. And then Prata, Namami,
Tamasa
Tamasa Paramarka Varnam. So in the morning, I praise that light of the sun, which illumines the darkness, just as the light of sun illumines darkness. So the light of knowledge given by the Guru, the consciousness, illumines my ignorance. Purna Sanatana Padam Purushottam Akhyam. So it is Purna, it is complete. It is Sanatan, it is ancient. And it is said to be Purushottam, Uttama Purusha. That is the description of this self. Purna Sanatana Padam Purushottam Akhyam. So this consciousness, that is my true nature, is said to be Purushottam. That's what Bhagavan will tell us in the 15th chapter. What is the description of this Uttam Purusha? And Yasmin Idam Jagata Shesham Ashesha Murtau Rajvam Bhujangama Iva Pratibhasitam Vai. So this world is Shesha. Shesha means there is something else. This world is not complete, right? It's not complete. Nothing in this world is complete. There is something Shesha, something additional. Even beyond these planets, there are other planets. Beyond stars, there are other stars. So it is not complete. But there is something which is Ashesha, which has nothing else. That consciousness alone is manifesting as this whole universe. There is nothing beyond that consciousness, right? Ashesha Murtau. In that total consciousness, this world is appearing how? Rajvam Bhujangama Iva Pratibhasitam Vai. Just as
Snake
on the rope, Rajvam on the rope, Bhujanga, snake, appears. So similarly, this whole world is appearing on that one consciousness. So when I meditate, I am that light of consciousness. I am infinite. I am Purna. I am not incomplete. I am complete, I am eternal, I never perish, I never die. And in my light of consciousness, this whole world is appearing. but not out of arrogance, but understanding that everybody is that light of consciousness. So seeing the oneness in the totality. So that is the essence of this. Is that clear?
They are just so beautifully composed, and
Yes.
the
Shankaracharya.
recitation of it is, and it's in my Ashram Bhajanavali on the very first page.
Right, right. You should memorize
So-
these shlokas. You should memorize
Yeah.
them. Chant them.
I do, but at times I get stuck, so I always have the book with me.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do memorize them.
Good,
yes.
good. And when you read it with meaning, with
Yeah.
understanding the
So-
meaning.
The meaning I was having some trouble with, and I'm glad you clarified today.
It's clear now. The meaning is clear.
Lot of it is. I still have to reread it.
Yeah, if you have any question, just call or text. I'll be happy. Or if you want to look at it right now.
Right. No, okay. On the first one, you did Pratas Marami Riddhi Sansfurada Atma Tattvam Satchit Sukham Paramahams Gati Maturiyam. The second line, Yat Swapna Jagar Shushuptam Avaiti Nityam Tad Brahm Nishkalam Aham Nacha Bhuta Sangha. Those
Yeah,
last
so-
two lines, can you
Yeah, so
repeat?
Swapna, Jagrat, Sushupta. Swapna means dream, Jagrat means waking, Sushupta means deep sleep. So Jagrat, Sushupta, so waking, dream, and deep sleep. Avaiti Nityam, it is always present.
Right.
The
okay.
light of
That's-
consciousness is always present. Nityam means
Right.
always in waking, dream, and deep sleep. That
Right.
Brahman I am, Nishkalam, partless. Partless means cannot be divided. So that Brahman which cannot be divided, I am not this Bhuta Sangha, not this collection of 5 elements.
Okay.
Because in
okay.
Tattva Bodh, they're talking about 5 elements and Panchikota
Yeah.
and all, and they became this
Right.
body which is
Right.
made of 5 elements, but I am not that. I am Brahman, which cannot be divided, even though we think, okay, my consciousness is different from yours, different from Ramaben's. No, but there is one consciousness which cannot be split, cannot be divided. And so I am that. Always, we don't think consciousness is somewhere else, Brahman is somebody else, Bhagwan is somebody else. I am that. And that
Right.
only happens in meditation.
Very true. Very true. Very good. Well, thank you.
And then all the speech and everything is illumined by that, whatever I'm speaking, thinking. So
Right.
I have gratitude.
Right. Right. I had not understood the meaning of Paramhans, but you did say today all the Mahatmas, they want to
Right.
be on that journey.
On that journey. That's why they say Ramakrishna Paramhans.
Right.
Ramakrishna Paramhans, because he was accomplished. He was that.
Okay.
That's why they call him Paramhans. And it is only the great saints who have chosen this path. Gatim means the path.
Yeah.
Gati
right.
also means goal. Gati
Right.
means path and Gati means goal.
Good.
So both refer to that the great masters have chosen this path to be their goal, and that is my goal also.
Exactly.
That should be. It should not say, okay, Ramakrishna Paramhans reached, but where am I? My goal also should be there. And it happens gradually. Like you said, no, you have difficulty memorizing. So it slowly comes. I have been
Yeah.
teaching Bhagavad Gita for more than 20 years. So I've done all this chanting. So practice se aayega dheere dheere. It's okay.
Right. I do. As I said, I remember 12th chapter and partly
Good,
15th.
Good. With practice, it
And
will
lot
become
of-
easier.
Lot of my Nitya part also.
Very good.
It has been sinking in.
Right.
Thank
And
you,
this
Anil.
Monday chanting class will help. Monday, this 8 o'clock chanting.
Absolutely. What it has done is clarification of the Sanskrit pronunciations, and
Right.
I appreciate that. I like that. Thank you.
Right. And then the Sanskrit class you are coming, right? Sunday at 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dheere dheere the ideas will become clearer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, chalo. Thank you.
Have a good one. Yeah.
Thank you, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Rama Ben.